In this section of the USPA B License Study Guide, we'll look at equipment considerations when skydiving. Now, this can be broken down into two parts. The first is aviation-related equipment, and then the second part is going to be the skydiver-related equipment. So beginning with the aviation-related equipment, it's important to know that you must notify air traffic control, or ATC, at least 1 hour prior to jumping, but not more than 24 hours. So either a pilot or a jumper may do this. Many DZs, though, have a written notification specific to their location, and they just renew it on an annual basis. In addition, skydives need to be made within 25 statute mile radius of the airport that they took off from. And a statute mile is just the normal miles that we think of, 5,280 feet, just not to be confused with nautical miles. What else is there to think about? Well, you need an operational radio, and the pilot has to be in contact with ATC prior to jumping. And not all aircraft are approved for flight when the door is open or removed. A lot of times additional modifications are required, and these usually require additional FAA field approval. So let's move on to looking at the equipment that a skydiver uses. So first up, this one I think is kind of obvious, but parachutes should not be loaned to people for an intended skydive when you don't know what their ability is. Whenever you change equipment, you should get adequate training if you need it. And it turns out that the use of unfamiliar equipment has been a factor in many fatalities in the past. AADs and RSLs are encouraged for all jumpers, and there's an interesting article from the January 2014 parachutists that looked at data from 1999 to 2013, and they found that the vast majority of fatalities that involved a cutaway could have been helped with an RSL. So I'm going to put the link in the description section below if you'd like to read that article. When it comes to altimeters, well, we know that altitude awareness is critical on every jump, and an altimeter works off of atmospheric pressure, and it has to be calibrated or zeroed on the ground. However, these altimeters have electronic and or mechanical components that may fail. You should expect minor differences up to about 500 feet, differences in readings on the altimeters that are on a plane. And an altimeter in a jumper's burble may read as high as 1,000 feet. So therefore, critical altitudes such as pull time should be determined by using a combination of visual reference to the ground and to an altimeter. So for example, learning what the size of cars looks like at different altitudes can help you build a mental library for estimating what your altitude is. When it comes to clothing, you should have adequate protective clothing, such as a helmet that is rigid and doesn't restrict your vision or hearing too much, goggles, footwear, gloves, especially when that temperature gets below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and a knife for emergency use. When it comes to flotation gear, it is advised that everyone be wearing flotation gear when they're intended to exit. Opening or landing point of a skydive is within a mile of an open body of water, and this is defined as any body of water where a skydiver could potentially drown. Emergency procedures should be reviewed annually in a training harness, and it's recommended that you practice your emergency procedures as each reserve repack. So while you're wearing your rig on the ground, you want to simulate some type of malfunction with your main parachute and then cut away and pull your reserve handle. So this practice is going to give you firsthand knowledge about the potential pull forces and the directional pull that you needed to use on your particular gear. And that is the end of our equipment section. Next up is going to be what type of maintenance we need to do.